right, today's episode is Let's Catch Up. Because it's been so long since I've done a live, I decided rather than having one specific topic for today, I thought it would be more fitting if I had just a generic sort of catch up with you all, and we'll have tea together. And as promised from the last time, I am going to make some tea with you guys and I'll talk you all through it. And I'll try and get a little bit experimental with the tea and see how we go. Maybe I can do some different brews with you all. Going live earlier would work brilliantly for me. At least it's 25 minutes to midnight across the ditch. Okay. Yeah, so if I do go live earlier, it's probably going to be quite early in Australia. I'm talking like 6 a.m. So I'm not sure exactly what time that would be for you, but it's probably going to be the most ideal time for me to change to. So we'll see. Is my mother still married to my stepdad? So my mother is still with my stepdad, yes. It's a bit of a complicated answer to give, you know, specifically, but yes, my mother and my stepdad, they do still live together, yes. Hi from Turkey. Hi. I'm more than happy for today to be just like a really random D&M, guys. So if you want hi from Kazakhstan. Hi. If you guys want to just ask random questions, I'm all ears. If you guys have any specific topics you want me to talk about, I'm all ears. Today your accent is full on British. Probably because I haven't been live in so long. So I'm really probably shy. I need to get back into my comfort zone and try and relax a little bit. I always sound really proper when I first talk after a while, and then after I get more comfortable, my accent kind of relaxes a little bit. Apparently that's a symptom of my mental health issues. So apparently it's quite normal, quite common. But anyway, hang on, sorry. I don't want to miss any questions. Hi from Wales. Hope you're well. I am. Thank you. I hope you are too. Hi from Sydney, Australia. Hi from Canada. Hi. 5:30 a.m. in Canada. Yeah, you see, so maybe if I went live earlier in Australia, seeing as most of you are not from Australia, I genuinely do think it would be so much better for everyone. Not necessarily me, because it's so early, but it would be generally better for everyone here if I went earlier. Hi from Ireland. Hi, Carlo. When are you coming to DXB? I am not sure, to be honest. I don't actually know when I'll be leaving the country anytime soon because there's so much happening at the moment. But I would like to be able to leave soon and go on any holiday. But we'll see what happens. Do you think your mum and stepdad stalk you discreetly? I mean, I feel like we're in the era of stalking, to be honest, when it comes to social media. We have been for quite some time. So I feel like it would almost be appropriate for me to assume yes. But obviously I wouldn't know for sure. I am almost positive. Obviously I can't be 100% positive, but I am almost positive that my mum does. As for my stepdad, I don't know. He was never really one for social media whilst I was living there. So whether that is something that's changed in the last 8 years, I honestly have no idea. But yeah, definitely I would suspect my mum does. Hi from Holland. Hi. How many accents tonight? Sure, I don't know how many accents would you like me to do. Sure, I don't do that many. I only have like 4 accents that I can jump between. I don't know. Let's see. Let's talk about the different accents, I suppose. So I don't like to attribute myself to be someone who's good at accents, only because the accents that I do are just accents that I've grown up around and have become rather accustomed to. I'm actually not someone with, you know, that really good ear where I can just imitate accents really well. So I am literally limited, and it's specific to the one my family has, to, you know, a Middle Eastern, you know, there's accent, you know, which is specific to her accent. There are multiple different accents from the Middle East, and I can only imitate her one. And then likewise with Ireland, I can imitate my family's Irish accent. I probably harshen it a bit more just to give it a little bit more character when I'm portraying them in my characters online, because their accent has softened a bit over the years being in Australia. But I can't do the other Irish accents. Like, there are a ton of Irish accents, and I'm only doing what they call the Kildare accent, which is not too far from Dublin. But the Dublin accent is already again different. Then if you go down, excuse me, further south to Cork, it's a whole other accent. And again to the west, to the north, Northern Ireland is a whole other accent. I can't imitate them. At least I haven't tried anyway. Then I can do a very, you know, very blasé British accent, which I feel like is the generic one that everyone finds really easy to do. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I can do like more of a bush, you know, Aussie accent, kind of like what we would call like the bush, yeah, the bush Australian accent, yeah. That's really all I can do. So yeah, that's a little bit of a spiel on the accent. I need to make the tea because it is already God knows how long that I've been on here, probably about 10 minutes. And oh, thanks, Mary. You think I'm adorable? I don't know if that's a good thing. Thanks. But let's make tea. So today on Tea with V, I should probably start with this before I start rambling. We're going to make black tea. Now, if anyone has been on my Instagram stories this week, you'll know that I've tried to go organic with my tea. I've been having a lot of issues with my nose. I can't breathe through my nose very well, but I asked on my stories, on my Instagram stories this week, if anybody knew any answer as to why I was having such an issue breathing through my nose with congestion, etc. And I was given a lot of answers, and now I'm not 100% sure on the final answer as of yet. I think I should know definitely in the next week or so. But for now, it definitely is a reaction to something I'm eating, 110%. And one of the most consumed products by myself is tea. So Musa was actually suggesting, because it is a predominant thought at the moment that I'm most likely allergic to sulfites, which is a preservative, for anyone that doesn't know, in food. It just seems to be, I thought for a long time, and it seemed to be a plausible option with my doctor as well, that it was potentially a dairy allergy, maybe a gluten allergy, but it was more likely that it would be dairy. Because I did cut out dairy for the last 3 months, and my acne did start to clear up a bit, not substantially, but a bit, and my bloating seemed to calm a little bit as well. Anyway, turns out it's not that. I'm not allergic to dairy as it has been seen to be, so it's most likely sulfites. As a result, Musa found out that there are sulfites in tea, a small percentage, but obviously I'm rather sensitive. So I've gone to T2 for anyone who's in Australia and New Zealand, because I think they only sell there. I've gone to T2 and got myself some loose leaf tea. So in this black box, I have a green box for my green tea, a black box for my black tea. We have some loose leaf tea. Now you should be storing, apparently, I learned this week. When I went shopping at T2, I found out, I had an education on tea, guys. I found out that tea is meant to be stored in a dark space because the sunlight affects the quality of the tea. So inside, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you guys. Oh, you can see it. I'm also recording to upload for you all later on YouTube. So hence why I'm looking here. But if you can see, inside is that loose leaf tea. Now, what you do is up to you in terms of how, but you have to get some sort of a strainer system, which I have here to show you guys. So I have my gold mesh strainer, but you can get a gazillion different types. I was amazed by the amount that I saw in T2 when I went shopping. You can get colored ones like this. You can get small ones that you actually dip into your cup, but I'm drinking in the traditional way, traditional Middle Eastern way tonight. So you cannot do that. It has to go into the pot. You can also get teapots that have this inbuilt. Now, the one that I have a teapot here that has at the end, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it on camera, but at the end here is a little filter system. But I don't, although that's good to catch any excess, I don't like to, I don't want to rather leave the tea brewing inside alone, because apparently you shouldn't have it in there for any more than 2 to 4 minutes. So I'm going to be using this instead, and then I'll just remove it when I'm done so that the tea leaves don't over brew. So before we continue with our little chit chat, let's just quickly make the tea. So in goes the holder, and I'm going, it's nighttime here and I don't want to be, you know, woken up too much, although tea doesn't wake me up greatly. But anyway, normally they say 1 tea bag is about one scoop. Okay, it comes with these little scoops, or you can buy them separately. So I'm just going to put about half of one of these little scoops into the mesh like that, and then we let it brew in the water for a little bit. I don't actually know because it's just me. I didn't put a whole lot of water because I didn't want to be here to I didn't want to be drinking too much here tonight. So I don't actually know. Oh, I kind of put a bit of the water high enough. I was going to say I don't think I've put the water high enough to make the tea brew, but at the moment it's looking all right. So that'll be good. All right, I'm going to let that brew now for the next like 2 minutes before I pour it. So we'll just leave that there for now. But yeah, that is like the most basic brew I could show you guys. I definitely don't have anything fancy. I could have got, you know, different flavored teas. I could have some mint. I do like my black tea with some lemon. I used to be putting honey in it, but I've recently found out that honey also has sulfites in it. I've actually found out, I thought cutting out dairy was an issue, you know, was tricky, but actually having to cut out, I better put my phone on silent because I've just realized it's on loud, but having to cut out sulfites is probably so much more tricky, because I have to cut out almost everything that I used to have unless it's fresh food of some account. So yeah, so I stopped with the honey. I've gone back to raw sugar only. No brown sugar that has sulfites in it. No white sugar, just raw sugar with my tea. And yeah, so that, I'll take that out in like a minute. I've just realized as well that the questions stopped piling in, so I'm just gonna scroll all the way to the bottom because I know I've missed a lot. I'm so sorry. Hi Carolyn. If I've missed any questions, I'm so sorry while I was rambling on about the tea. Then please do feel free to send it again. I'm so sorry. But let's see. Just scroll. Sorry. We have David's Tea in Tijuana shops in the States. I've actually never heard of that. My Irish, I've got some Irish family that have come over they're coming to stay with us in Sydney for a while. And they brought with them some Lions and some Barry's tea. And Barry's tea is quite nice, but unfortunately now, because I'm going all organic with my tea, I'm not able to try it. So I've had it before though, so it's all good. I do remember. I went to Ireland back in 2015. It was the first time I travelled abroad on my own and I loved it. The people were so friendly and the landscape was stunning. Would definitely go again. Ireland is definitely beautiful. That sounds about right. I'm so glad you had a good experience. 2015 was so long ago though, so I hope you get the chance to go again soon. Although it's been a while for myself as well. I think it was 2019 the last time I was there. So yeah, I definitely, I agree. I would love to be able to go back myself. The landscape alone is stunning. Never mind how friendly the people are. The culture there is just fueling with this friendly nature that I just adore. I love it so much. All right. Kareem. Okay, so all right. So someone sent in a question. What would you do if you ever ran into your mother in public? I think I've answered this question on a live before, and my answer will definitely be the same thing as it was when I answered it before. So for anyone who's here listening again, sorry to be repetitive, but if I ever ran into my mother in public, what would I do? To be honest with you, I think I would just be the type. I have run into her before years ago when I first left home. I ran into her maybe about 3 times in the year that ensued, and I pretty much just, you know, tried to avoid the situation. So I'm not a confrontational person whatsoever, and I pretty much just completely just avoided it, whether I looked in a different direction, whether I tried to pretend like I hadn't seen her and just continued. At one stage I was with my grandmother, at another stage I was with my grandfather, and just pretended like I was, you know, invested in a very deep and thoughtful conversation, and that I just couldn't, you know, give her any more eye contact. Now, I actually can't guarantee that she did see that, because she was always walking. In each occasion that I'd run into her, she was in front of me. So chances are there have been times where the situation could have been reversed, where I had been in front and she'd, you know, pretended not to see me and turned around and gone as well. So who knows? But yeah, I definitely would continue with the same theory, thought process, that I would just avoid the situation altogether, because I don't know if that... Oh yeah, it did. Because I just don't know if it's a situation that my mental health could tolerate very well, to be honest with you. So I didn't actually bring a tissue or anything, so that's just going to have to rest on that for now. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the board. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. In summary, I would avoid the situation. I just, yeah. If she, okay, in reverse, let's try and, you know, answer the question from a different angle. If my mother approached me in public, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a confrontational person, so I would very much be something along the lines of civil and dismissive. So whilst being civil, I would be dismissing myself from the situation, because again, like I've mentioned in the past, whilst I can learn to forgive and move on, I will never forget, and therefore I don't have any desire to try and delve back into that world. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was kind of a bit of a long-winded answer, but I hope that answered your question. Scroll. I don't know why Instagram stops and then I'm not able to see anything. Oh, thanks, Tiana. You didn't have to do that, but thank you so much. So do you talk to your dad? What does your dad think? I do talk to my dad. If anyone here is new from this year, you may not have noticed much content with my father of late, because he is actually abroad. So for anyone that doesn't know, my father is traveling the world, well, traveling the Middle East, parts of Asia and Europe at the moment. I don't want to, you know, be so dismissive of the rest of the world. On his motorbike. My dad's traveling around on his motorbike, and so I do have a relationship with my father. It's just you wouldn't have seen much of him lately, because this year he's been out and about. But I used to actually do lives with my father before he went on his trip around the world, or part of the world. And I used to do videos with him as well, and hopefully, inshallah, when he gets back, I will do the same thing. I'll go back and make more content with my father, and hopefully go live with him again. But my father, what does he think? So for the second half of your question, what does my father think of the whole situation? My father is very, I suppose, to sum it up briefly, is very saddened by the situation with my mother and I. Obviously, the way that it affected my father was I wasn't allowed very regularly to see my dad. And even when I was let see him, it was under extreme conditions, in the sense that it was very restrictive, I should say, not extreme, restrictive conditions. So it wasn't really a very freeing father-daughter relationship, in the sense that I had a very strict time schedule. Every second week I would be allowed to see my father on a Saturday, and it would be for about 8 hours. And then every second Sunday, the Sunday was the 8-hour day. And then every other week, so every other second week would be a Saturday for like 3 hours. And now the issue there was that my father lived like about 3/4 of an hour drive from my mother. So the traveling alone was part of, the huge part of the restrictions. So I would be let go with my dad on the Saturdays I was allowed to go. I would be let go for 3 hours, only to spend 2/3 of that time traveling almost. So my dad was obviously very upset by the whole situation. My father was always one to be very caring and very loving from the get-go. That looks like I just poured clear water, but I promise you there's tea in it. I don't know, I think it's the lighting from the ring light that makes it look clear, but it is tea. So actually I'm going to rest that there. There's meant to be a candle under this. I really love this contraption to keep the tea warm, but I don't have it on at the moment. But anyway, so my dad was obviously very saddened by the whole situation, because of the simple fact that he wasn't let see his daughter enough at all. And I know that wasn't that was no mistake. I know my mother was very thought out and very planned in her actions in not allowing me to build that kind of relationship with my dad. My mom, I remember at one point actually made a comment when I was older that she always had this feeling that I was going to run away from home. And that's probably why there were so many things I wasn't let have or let do. One, namely being building a strong relationship with my father, contextually speaking, being allowed to go and see him regularly, etc. And I wasn't allowed to have a key to the house. So if I ever was let go out, be it for university, be it to go walking with my siblings somewhere, take the rubbish out, I was never let have a key to the house. I was given a phone on and off very, very, very briefly in my last couple of years that I was living there. I wasn't allowed to have a phone in school. When I went to university, I was given a phone, but it was often taken away from me. And then it wasn't until the last year that I was living there that I was given it more consistently. And it was constantly being taken back, though, because of the simple fact that obviously she was worried I was going to use it as a means to escape, which I did. And yeah, no regrets. Anyway, to anybody who's having tea with me, sahteen or sláinte or cheers. I love tea so much. It is the biggest, a lot of people have a comfort food. Mine is tea. I find so much comfort in tea. I don't know what it is. I think it might be, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you guys, actually. And I guess in a way it's kind of ironically sad. But I think tea for me probably started being a comfort thing for me because growing up, one of the few moments that my mother was ever nice with me and I could enjoy company with her would be when we were sharing a cup of tea. So I think I've got this, inbuilt feeling of association with tea, of comfort, where it was the time in the morning where I would get up and I would make my mother her tea and my tea, and that was the first few moments where things were somewhat calm. And for the most part, actually, for a lot of memories, many things were not calm again until there was the next time to make a cup of tea, where my mother would ask for the cup of tea, which meant that everything kind of calmed for a minute because it was her time to pause. And I would be allowed to have a cup of tea with her. So I feel like tea started out, for me, if I really think about it, it probably started out as being a means of comfort because of those times. And then when I've left home, the main reason. So again, just to emphasize, that's probably how it started. But the actual main means of comfort that I find with tea is because of my Irish family. They have, for anyone who's Irish, and actually probably anyone from the UK really, could resonate with the fact that tea is something you stop for religiously at what they call 10 o'clocks and 3 o'clocks. So you'd have your morning tea and your afternoon tea. And my Irish family, for a specific example, they'll have their breakfast, and then that usually is accompanied by tea. And then at around roughly 10 o'clock, they'll stop for a break and they will have morning tea, usually like tea and biscuits. And then they'll have lunch, which will probably also be accompanied by another cup of tea. And then they'll stop at around 3 o'clock for afternoon tea. And obviously the names that I'm using for these are the more Australian names. They're referred to differently in Ireland. And that, 3 o'clocks would be tea accompanied by, maybe another biscuit or cake. Some form of confectionery sweet. And then dinner time would come along, and then it also would be accompanied by, your last tea for the day. So I often stop with my family for 10 o'clocks and 3 o'clocks, and it's just that comfort, that bonding that we all have over tea, which I think is lovely. Yeah. So just a little bit of a side. I don't know. I told you guys before, I rant and ramble so much. But yeah, tea is definitely such a huge means of comfort for me. It's actually kind of curious. Again, the comments have stopped, so I'm going to have to scroll down a lot again. What? Oh, that's a very interesting... that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I wasn't expecting to read something like that. So, Sis has asked me a question. What would you tell her, as in your mother, if she was watching this live right now? That is a really, really stumping question, because I'm quite literally stumped. What would I tell my mother in the event that I knew she was listening to this live right now? I suppose if I've taken a second to pause there, and I suppose the first thing that came to my mind would be two things. Well, one, do you not have any regrets? And the second thing would be, do you not miss what you've lost? I know when people ask me about my PTSD and my post-traumatic stress disorder issues, and they ask me, things like, what's the main issue for you? And I guess the main issue, the main trigger, because obviously PTSD, the main problem is triggers. My main trigger is the lack of a mother. And it's probably, I know this is probably going to sound really insensitive, and I don't mean it to sound insensitive, but it's the fact that my mother is alive. And I don't mean to take away from people who have gone through the misfortune of losing a mother. So please don't take it insensitively like that. I don't mean it that way. But it's the fact that she's not even passed away. She's alive. She's still present and very much able in terms of her physical health and I'm going to assume her mental health to be a mother, and she actively makes the decision not to be. So I guess, yeah, the big trigger for me is the knowing that. So then with that thought, with that context, does she not, knowing that I'm alive, I'm still here, and that she's very much able to still have that relationship with her daughter had she not burnt those bridges, does she not miss what she's lost? And I know in the stubborn nature that I can very much remember my mother to have, no part of her would ever admit that she did, even if she did. Whether she does or not I have no idea. But let's assume for a second that my mum does miss, the opportunities that are lost between, the mother-daughter relationship that could have been. I know that she would never ever admit that. I'm not saying that she does. I'm just saying that, presumably they were there. I know she would never admit it. And then second, do you not have any regrets subsequently? I guess that question is a subsequent question. Are there no regrets? Do you not regret how you've handled the situation that has resulted in this outcome? Are you not regretful of the fact that you've lost a daughter? I know you've got 2 others, and I really do, inshallah, pray that they're doing very well, and I hope you have so much. That would be the third thing that I would say. I hope really genuinely pray that there is so much more of a better relationship that you have with my other siblings, my 2 sisters and brother that are with you. I have another sister with my father, my Irish father, but with my mother, there are 2 sisters and a brother. And I really do pray that there is so much of a better relationship that is being had there, because it was when I left. Whilst I was living with them and up until when I left, it was. So I hope it has remained, and if not, grown and flourished into an even better relationship amongst the 4 of you. And 5 if I were to include the stepfather. But yeah, I just definitely, you really stumped me in my tracks and got me thinking there. I would definitely ask via a live, I suppose, is kind of a peculiar way to ask such an in-depth question. But I would definitely be asking, do you not miss anything and do you not regret anything, in summary? So I hope that answers your question. Right, now, tell us about the first cup of tea. Who did you drink it with? Tell us about the first cup of tea. Who did you drink it with? Was it black or a British style? Okay, my first ever cup of tea. That, I love the curious nature of your question sometimes. What is the first ever cup of tea I had? Honest to God, I really don't know. I can't be certain. I really think that my first cup of tea might have been what is called echinacea tea. And it's because I was sick at the time. Now, I could be wrong. It's just what I remember. I was sick at the time. I had probably like a flu or a virus of some sort. It wouldn't have been the flu, sorry. If it was the flu, I'd remember it. It would have been like a cold or a virus of some sort. And my mother is very much into naturopathy, natural medicine. And I remember, again, my first memory of tea, so I could be wrong, but I remember her giving me a cup of echinacea tea. It was very pink. Naturally, the brew is very pinkish. And with a bit of, it was either sugar or honey. I can't be sure. It was probably sugar. And I remember that it tasted so amazing. And I wanted more. And I remember I went up to my mom and I said to her, like, you know, can I have more? I think it's really helping. And my mom was like, it doesn't work that quickly. I'm pretty sure you only want a second cup because you want that sweet taste from the sugar. So that was probably my first cup of tea. But, oh, there's a little mozzie in here. We love when the warmer months kick in Australia because the flies and the mozzies just go rampant. The sarcasm is real right now. But what I did want to say, actually, on that point, so you've asked me about my first cup of tea, and I'm going to try extremely hard not to get emotional here, because the moment I read that question, I started to feel my emotions tingle when I was thinking of my response. So, excuse me. So that was probably my first cup of tea. But if I were to think about the first cup of tea that I ever shared with my Irish family, the day that the day after, that I moved in here with them, I run away from home. So it was the 22nd of July and I've run away from home and all of that jazz has happened. And now the next morning I've woken up. It's now the 23rd of July and I've woken up and it's probably about 8-ish a.m. in the morning. And I've gotten up and I've gone to walk out and my grandfather was making me a cup of tea. And I remember that hit me so hard and I've never forgotten that memory. Purely because aside from that very first, cup of echinacea tea that I remember my mother making me, the rest of my life with my mum after that, as I've gotten older, namely in high school, I don't think I really did it much in primary school, maybe around year 6, but definitely around, for the entirety actually of high school, I always made my mother her tea. I was never made a cup of tea ever. Like, it was just not, aside from, like I mentioned, that echinacea tea. My mum never made me tea. It just wasn't a thing. And I assume probably because in our culture, you know, the daughters tend to be the one to make and serve the tea. So I never really questioned that. But then I've moved in with my Irish family, and I've woken up on that, you know, morning after running away from home. And I kid you not, I wasn't in this room. I was in a room upstairs at the time. And I've walked out of my room. I've walked along the hallway into the kitchen, and my grandfather is literally, I've caught him. He must have heard me getting out of bed. I've caught him pouring the hot water into the tea, making me tea, and asking me, you know, how do you like your tea? Do you like it with sugar or milk? You know, how would you like it? And I looked at him, and I instinctually was like, oh, no. I can make my tea. Don't worry about it. And he's like, oh, don't you trust me? Don't you think I can make your tea for you? And I was like, oh, no. It's not that I don't trust you or think that you can't make the tea. It's just like, no one's ever made tea for me before. I kind of feel guilty almost about you making it. And I burst into tears. I actually burst into tears. I walked back, like off to the other room, consoled myself. And I remember actually that was the start. That was the moment that triggered the realization of how controlled I'd been. Because after I'd accepted him, you know, making me a cup of tea and accepted that tea from him, I then asked for permission to go outside. And my grandfather was looking at me going, why are you asking that? And I was confused as to how he didn't understand. But what he didn't know was, for those first 22 years of my life living with my mother, I had to ask for permission to go outside the house. Even if it was to take out the rubbish, I had to tell my mother I was taking the rubbish out. I was never permitted to just randomly go out to the front. I couldn't walk through the front yard or anything. Even in the backyard, unless I was going outside to collect the laundry from the washing from the line, I wasn't allowed to just randomly go out. So the first cup of tea, I guess today we've kind of realized why I'm so attached to tea. That first cup of tea was really quite magical for me, actually, because it was a very humbling experience. I know it sounds odd, but it really was a humbling experience having my grandfather make me a cup of tea. And then afterwards, that triggered this, you know, ripple effect of realizations where I started to understand that I was so controlled because there's so many things that I'm asking permission to do that I never needed to do. So, yeah, again, long-winded answer. I really hope that answered your question. I, of course, couldn't give a simple answer. I had to rant. And someone, I just saw quickly, someone sent in a question asking me if I share my stories with my students. I have shared very, very basic, minimal outlines of my story. When I say minimal, so for example, saying, you know, I didn't have the best of childhoods, or I don't talk to my mother. That's what I mean by basic. With my students, when I was actually teaching in schools, as opposed to now in my tutoring business. And whenever I did that, it was only to help a student feel comfortable when they were trying to open up to me about their own home life issues. So it was never something that I would just generically bring up. It was something that I was obviously either trying to relate to with the student, make them feel comfortable, etc. However, on a side note, I do know that there are students who have found my socials and have been able to hear different parts of my story through this. So that I can't avoid. And not that I'm saying I'm ashamed of my story or I want to hide it or anything like that. It's just, it's not, you know, for younger people, I guess I kind of want to try and censor how I word it, because I don't want to be triggering for anyone, especially not the youth. But yeah. So let me just go back off when the ones that I'm just missing. I was 22 when I left Tian. Lozzie, were you locked out of the home by your mum since you didn't have a key? Yeah, so I wasn't locked out per se, in the sense I wasn't locked out. When you say locked out, it's not that I was, you know, left outside overnight or anything like that. but I wasn't let a key. So yes, I needed to knock on the door to be let in. Now, that actually why I paused and sighed when I read that comment. That actually reminds me of the time when I was going to university. This was actually not that long before I left her and I left and ran away from home. I had a very late class. I believe it was a Wednesday where my class finished at 9 p.m. But, excuse me, my classes were an hour and a half drive away, an hour and a half public transport commute, I should say, from my home. So it finishing at 9, by the time I caught the public transport between around 9:15, 9:20, and then I had to catch 2 trains. I had to change trains, you know, go from, it was on the other side of the Harbour Bridge. So I'm in Sydney. I had to come across the bridge, change at what we call Central Station. It's in the city. And then catch the line that came back into my area. And then once that train came back into my area, I then had to catch the bus home. Now, that bus stopped at about two streets in front of my house. So at this point, by the time I've caught those 2 trains and that bus, so I've walked from my university to the train station, I've caught the 2 trains, and I've caught the bus home, it's about 11 p.m. So it's about a 2-hour journey back home. And you know, walking at nighttime at 11 p.m. and I didn't grow up in the nicest of areas. I grew up in an area where there are a lot of issues, and I would walk home through those streets from the bus station to my mum without a key. And I very clearly remember knocking on the door at 11 p.m. one night. And it was every night that this happened, but this one particular night stands out in my mind, especially like as soon as I saw that question, it reminded me. And I was locked out. I didn't have a key, and I was knocking on the door and trying to wake up my mother, obviously. Now, I had a phone at this point. On this particular night, it hadn't been taken away from me. I did have a phone, but obviously my mother had fallen asleep, I'm assuming, because she never answered my phone calls, my text messages, nothing. And I was knocking on the door for what felt like, I cannot guarantee you how long it was, but what felt like at least 20 minutes. It could have been longer, it could have been less, but it felt to me like at least 20 minutes had gone by, where I am standing outside the front of my house in the middle of suburbia, so every other house, you know, if they went to their front door, could have seen me, and I could probably hear me too, because I am at this point knocking quite loud and also shouting out to my mother quite substantially loud so that she could let me in. And probably about 20 minutes, like I said, would have passed before she'd, I'm going to assume, woken up and let me in. And I guess, you know, what was probably adding to the memory being something that I've never forgotten and I've just visually held on to it so much is because even after all of that, and it's now at this point maybe 20 past, 11:30, I've walked inside and my mother has said to me, you know, the dishes, my job, by the way, was most jobs, chores in the house were mine, and namely doing the dishes. And I remember I'd walked in and I walked inside and my mother had said to me, the dishes are waiting for you. And she'd just gone off and walked off to bed. And I remember I'd walked into the kitchen and it's like 11:30 at nighttime and the dishes are waiting for me. And I'm not allowed to go to bed until those dishes are done. And I'm going to stop talking about this story now because I'm at my limit now before I start crying and I don't really want to cry. So that we can maybe continue that night telling that story of what happened that night on another time. But yeah, so was I ever locked out? To answer your question, was I ever locked out of the house? Yes. Anyway, let's pour another cup of tea. It is coming up. It is 20 past 10, so it's almost an hour. So if you guys have any last minute questions, send them through to me. I'll try and get through as much as I can in these last 10 minutes before I have to go get to bed. But I hope some of you are having tea or coffee, whatever your beverage of choice is with me. Oh, hi, Emma. I've just seen that you're still on. Ah, Ismail. Yeah. I think as a child, so my friend Ismail's commented that your life is like, you know, Cinderella / Harry Potter. I feel like I bonded so much with the story of Harry Potter as a child, because of how much I related to it, and how much how much I related to it, but then also two, how much I wanted that to be my story. So one, relating to Harry a lot in terms of, you know, the issues with his step family, and then, you know, relating a lot to Hermione, you know, using education as a means of escapism. So yeah, anyway, I'll take it as a compliment, Ismail. Does Musa drink tea with you? My husband is Turkish and we drink tea, but most of the time he looks at it rather than drinking it. Yeah, no, Musa definitely drinks tea with me. So whenever we're together, we definitely drink a lot of tea. Actually, one night, see how divergent my brain is? I always have a story to relate to everything. Apparently that's a sign of ADHD, so I'm not sure, maybe I should get tested. But yeah, see, look how much I ramble and I get just, you know, all these side tangents. Anyway, back to the original comment. When Musa and I first started talking, I remember my friends and I, we all went out to a bakery, and we had manaish, and I remember everyone was ordering coffee or energy drinks or, you know, soft drink or something with their breakfast foods. And I remember Musa was sitting in front of me, because my friends made sure that we were directly sitting in front of me because they knew there was an interest there. And I remember we were sitting there, and this is in Melbourne, by the way, and I remember when the waiter came to ask Musa, you know, what would you like? And he was like, oh, you know, can I get a pot of breakfast tea, please? And that got my attention straight away, and I was like, oh, he wants tea? And my friends all must have heard it as well, because straight away they all started commenting going, oh my god, Berna's in heaven, Musa just ordered tea, oh, this is the one. And they were all making little comments like this. So as soon as the waiter then came to me then and to ask, you know, what would you like, and I pointed to Musa and I was like, can you make that two breakfast teas, please? So yeah, Musa definitely loves his tea. This keeps it nice and warm, this glass teapot, but I feel like if I had that candle next time, I might trial that on the live. But this would be nicer if it was just that little bit more warm. But yeah, anyway, I do need to go in a minute, guys. So any last questions, and I will answer them as best as I can. It's not insensitive. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, is that how far behind I am on the comments? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not insensitive at all. As someone who is living a similar journey, I totally get it. They're just living in their own little pretendy happy land where they're an angel and everyone else. I think I understand what you mean. I'm not 100% sure, but if I'm right in what I understand, then I totally agree with you. Do you think your other two sisters... Oh, no, sorry. Do you talk to your other two sisters from your mum's side? No. I don't talk to my brother or my two sisters that live with my mum. I don't talk to anyone that lives in that house, actually. Let alone that family. It's just... It's complicated, but I guess the short end of it is... that is something I had to give up when I ran away from home. Now, in my goodbye letter to my mum, I wanted to try and have some form of communication with them. And obviously that was not allowed. I tried. It was something that I mentioned and I wanted, but the response that I got was that she didn't want to talk to me if I wasn't going to live with her. If I was going to live with my father, she didn't want to talk to me, and then I would also not have any access to my brother or sisters if I wasn't living there. So yeah, unfortunately I do not talk to them, no. Okay. You love Turkey. We also love our tea. I love Turkish apple tea. It is so beautiful. I love it so much. And honestly, I'm going to go there and just buy like a whole tub of it and bring it back, inshallah. Because I love it so much. It's so good. Hi, Cynthia. Where do you attend mass? So I probably my family have their church that they go to, right? Every Christian family has, you know, their church that they go to. And I'm not going to advertise that online just because I feel like that's a little bit of a privacy issue. Not necessarily for me, but actually for my family, especially the ones that regularly attend. So I'll just leave that one off social media. But what I will say is that the church that I do like to attend the most is actually St. Mary's Cathedral. So I've shown a lot of you before on my stories, for anyone that's seen, whenever I go to St. Mary's Cathedral, honestly, the moment I'm in the city, I just want to go there. I just want to go to St. Mary's Cathedral, and I just want to pray and spend some time, you know, reflecting, you know, meditating in my own thoughts there, even after I'm finished praying. That is my favorite place to go. And I've been there for Mass before as well. So definitely St. Mary's Cathedral. Okay, let's wrap things up. I'll read the last two questions that I can see. Apologies if they're really far behind. It sounds like your parents were quite opposite by culture, and you unlocked so much when you ran away and lived with your Irish side. Yeah, my parents' culture. So my mother is Palestinian and my father is Irish. Stark contrast, completely, incredibly different. And yeah, when I ran away from home, obviously because I'd grown up with my mother, I had such an exposure and enculturation with my Middle Eastern, my Arab culture. And then when I've run away 8 years ago and I've moved in with my Irish family, it was a whole new enculturating experience. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one, definitely. Hello from Denmark. Hi. All right, let's finish up. Where? Oh, we definitely need more teachers like you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Right. Thank you for sharing your stories. Make the world a bit less lonely. Oh, my heart. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. All right. What subjects do you teach in your tutoring? I am an English tutor and I am a piano tutor. Thanks, Ismail. Thank you. Okay, last one, and then it's time for me to go. Sorry, guys. Do your parents know that do your parents now see that they were wrong after they lost you? I have no idea. Someone actually asked me before at the start of the live, you know, what's one thing that if you could ask your mum if she was watching this live, you know, what would it be? And I guess my answer would always probably remain the same. You know, do you not regret anything? Like, do you not... what was the exact choice of word? Do you not see that, you know, what you did was wrong? And I honestly can't answer that question because I have no idea. I've never spoken to them since, you know, that week after I've left home, and I have no idea what their thought processes are. They're not, you know, content creators, so I've never seen them, you know, make anything where I can kind of, you know, gauge any idea. So, yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea, but I'll end on this thought. Based on conversations I know that has been had between my mother and, let's say, a cousin of mine or an auntie, I know there is no remorse that is being at all portrayed. No regret, no nothing. So I would assume then your answer to that question would be no, they don't see what they did as being wrong, which is sad. And yeah, definitely something that I guess I could explore more in the next live. But guys, it is now 10:30. I always say that I'm only going to do these lives for a half hour, and then I end up being on here for an hour every single time. So I guess it's just a good conversation. What can I say? You guys are really cool to chat with, even if it is only through comments, but you know, maybe one day eventually live will allow you to go live with multiple people. Actually, live, what am I saying? Live allows you to go with about Instagram live anyway, allows you to go, I think, with about 3 other people, so 4 altogether. So I should probably actually try and start exploring that. I think that is something that I said a long time ago I was going to do, and I've forgotten about it. So yeah, I should probably do that next time for sure. All right, guys, it is 10:30. Time for me to go and log off for the day. Thank you, everyone. I know it's been so long since I've been live, but thank you so much. I think from next week, I am probably going to still be doing a Wednesday Australia time in the morning. So it'll probably be for a lot of people around the world a Tuesday night. But yeah. Thank you so much to everyone that joined. I know it's been so long, so I know a lot of you aren't here today because of the fact that I've, you know, fallen out of routine with this. But thank you nonetheless. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate it. And inshallah, I will see you guys again. Same day, but different time next week. And yeah, have a good week, guys. Yalla, goodbye.